Let me ask you something that might sound uncomfortable. Have you ever looked at the woman you love, someone you've shared memories with, maybe even sacrificed for, and heard her say this? I don't respect you. Maybe she didn't use those exact words. Maybe it was more subtle. You're so weak. You're not a real man. I can't take you seriously anymore. But deep down, you knew exactly what it meant. And yet, you stayed. Why? Because like most good men, you hoped it would get better. You believed that love meant staying, working through the hard times. You thought that with patience, understanding, or proving yourself, you could earn that respect back. But here's the brutal truth: when a woman says she doesn't respect you, she's not just venting. She's not having a bad day. She's giving you a window into her subconscious. And that window, it rarely lies. In this video, we're going to expose the psychological truth behind those words, why they mean more than you think, why they should never be ignored, and why, if you value your identity as a man, you must have the strength to walk away. And yes, I know that sounds harsh, but stay with me, because what I'm about to show you isn't just based on theory. It's based on real stories, real consequences, and the hidden dynamics behind female psychology and masculine self-worth. You're going to learn why some women use disrespect as a form of control and don't even realize it, the difference between emotional immaturity and narcissistic manipulation, how staying with a disrespectful partner can destroy your confidence, identity, and self-esteem, one passive-aggressive comment at a time. And most importantly, how walking away doesn't make you weak, it makes you undeniably strong. You see, most men fear being alone. They stay in toxic relationships because they think it's better than starting over. They confuse endurance with loyalty. But endurance without boundaries isn't loyalty, it's self-betrayal. Here's something most men learn too late. Once a woman loses respect for you, she can still love you. But it will be a love filled with pity, not admiration. It's a love that drains you instead of fueling you. So if you're in that place or ever find yourself there, this video is for you. And if you've never heard those words before, but you felt them through her actions, keep watching. Because disrespect doesn't always come out of her mouth. Sometimes it shows up in her silence, her tone, her eyes, and the way she treats you in front of others. Let's dive deep into this, because as hard as this is to hear, it could save your mental health, your purpose, and your masculinity. Let's break this down at the root. When a woman says or shows that she doesn't respect you, most men immediately go into one of two modes: fix-it mode or denial mode. In fix-it mode, you start thinking, maybe if I try harder, if I make more money, if I'm more understanding, then she'll respect me again. In denial mode, you tell yourself, she didn't really mean it, she was just angry. Everyone says things they don't mean sometimes, right? Here's the catch. This isn't about what she said, it's about why she said it. And once you understand that, you'll stop wasting time trying to change her and start protecting your own dignity. There are typically two reasons why a woman expresses blatant disrespect. Sometimes disrespect comes out in a moment of anger or stress. She might say, "You're so pathetic. I can't believe I settled for someone like you. You're not a real man." Afterward, she might apologize, cry, or say she didn't mean it. She'll say she was just in the heat of the moment. But here's what psychologists call a Freudian slip, a moment when the unconscious speaks without filters. It's a glimpse into her true emotional perception of you. And that's the moment where many men get it wrong. They hear the words, feel the sting, but choose to rationalize it away. They think she said she was sorry. It's fine. But it's not fine. It's never fine when the person who's supposed to love you cuts you down at your core. Because words like that don't come from nowhere. They're formed in the mental file she's been keeping on you, sometimes for months or years. So when it slips out, what she's really saying is, "I've been thinking this for a while. I just finally said it out loud." You don't recover from that by buying flowers. You don't fix that with romantic dinners. You fix that by realizing the emotional foundation has cracked deeply. Now, the second type of disrespect is far more dangerous. This is when it's intentional. When a woman uses disrespect not as a mistake, but as a weapon. She wants to control the dynamic. She wants you beneath her so that she can feel emotionally superior. This usually happens when she feels insecure about herself. She doesn't truly admire or value you, but still wants to keep you around. She's testing your limits to see how much crap you'll tolerate. These are the women who insult you, mock your masculinity, challenge your authority in public, then play the victim when you react. They'll say things like, "I'm just joking. You're too sensitive. Other guys wouldn't get this upset. If you were a real man, you wouldn't be so emotional." And suddenly you're the bad guy just for asking for basic respect. This is textbook emotional manipulation. And the longer you stay, the more she chips away at your sense of worth. You start to believe that maybe you are weak, that maybe you don't deserve better, that maybe this is all part of love. But let me be clear, love without respect is emotional slavery. If she needs to humiliate you to feel good about herself, she's not a partner, she's a tyrant. Let me tell you about James, a software engineer from Texas. Smart, loyal, financially stable. He fell for a woman who on the surface seemed loving and ambitious. But within the first year, she started using little digs like, "I make more than you now, who's the real man here? Don't embarrass me at my parents' dinner, okay?" James brushed it off. He thought, she's just under stress. She doesn't really mean that. But over time, the comments turned public. She'd mock him in front of friends, interrupt him at parties, roll her eyes when he spoke. When he finally confronted her, she laughed and said, "You're being dramatic. Grow up." James stayed for 3 more years. By the time he left, he was a shell of himself. No confidence, constant anxiety, no passion left in his work. All because he confused her attention for affection and her disrespect for tough love. Today he's rebuilt himself, and his biggest regret, not walking away the first time she told me I wasn't a real man. So here's the bottom line, brother. Whether it's a slip or a strike, disrespect is never random. It's either how she truly sees you or a way to reshape the power dynamic in her favor. Either way, the only healthy response is to stop justifying, stop negotiating, and start walking. So now you know what it means when she disrespects you, whether by accident or design. But here's where it gets even more dangerous. What happens when you stay? Most men assume, if I stay long enough, she'll eventually realize my worth. If I keep proving myself, she'll respect me again. But the reality is very different. Because the longer you stay in a relationship where respect is gone, the more invisible, uncertain, and powerless you become. It doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow, silent collapse, like emotional erosion chipping away your self-worth grain by grain. Let me walk you through how it usually unfolds. Stage 1, undermining behind closed doors. It starts subtly. Maybe she corrects you in private, mocks your ambitions, or downplays your ideas. She might say things like, "That's a dumb idea, babe. You're too emotional. Why do you always need validation?" At first, you might even laugh it off. You tell yourself she's just being sarcastic. But deep down, you feel it. The sting, the shift. You find yourself walking on eggshells in your own home. You pause before sharing your thoughts. You second-guess your decisions just to avoid her disapproval. And here's the insidious part. It makes you believe that you're the problem. That maybe you really are too sensitive. Maybe you really do need to man up. But this is the beginning of emotional gaslighting, where her disrespect becomes your burden to carry. Stage 2, public humiliation. Once private disrespect is tolerated, it becomes public behavior. She starts interrupting you in conversations, rolling her eyes at you in front of others, laughing at your opinions in group settings. This is where the damage deepens. Because now it's not just between you and her, it's in the eyes of your friends, family, co-workers. You begin to shrink socially. You don't speak up as much. You avoid group outings. You become the guy in the background, the one she puts up with instead of proudly supports. And the worst part, she may even disguise it as humor. "He knows I'm just teasing him. He's too sensitive, aren't you, babe?" But behind every joke, there's a jab. And behind every jab, there's a message. You are not equal in this relationship. Stage 3, decision-making exclusion. Then comes the erosion of influence. She starts making decisions without you. Vacations, major purchases, plans with her friends, even discussions about the future. You go from being a partner to a passenger. And when you question it, you're met with, "I didn't think you'd care. You never have good ideas anyway. I just wanted to make things easier." What she's really saying is, your opinion doesn't matter anymore. This breeds resentment, quiet, heavy resentment. You feel trapped, present in the relationship but not involved, seen but not respected, loved maybe but not valued. Stage 4, identity loss. This is where most men hit emotional rock bottom. You stop being who you were. Maybe you used to be confident, focused, decisive. Now you're constantly second-guessing yourself. You can't remember the last time you felt proud of who you are. You wake up anxious. You sleep with a heavy heart. You no longer recognize the man in the mirror. Why? Because you've been molding yourself to fit her approval for so long, you've forgotten how to stand on your own. You're no longer building a future, you're managing her moods. Real life story. The firefighter who gave up his flame. Let me tell you about Marco, a firefighter from San Diego. Tough guy. Brave. Passionate about his work. He once saved a child from a burning house. But at home he was in a relationship that slowly extinguished his inner fire. His girlfriend constantly questioned his decisions, mocked his emotional side, and eventually started comparing him to other men. Why can't you be more like my ex? You're so emotionally closed off, you never plan anything romantic. The irony, he was afraid to plan things, because every time he did, she found something wrong with it. He stopped lifting, stopped going out with his crew, stopped smiling at the job he once loved. He didn't leave until his captain pulled him aside and said, "Whatever's going on in your personal life, it's killing your edge. I don't know who you are anymore." That hit him, because if the people who knew him at his best could no longer recognize him, maybe he was losing something far more important than a relationship. Maybe he was losing himself. Marco finally left, and today he's thriving, new partner, new energy, and a promise to himself. If a woman doesn't admire me for who I already am, I walk. And you should too, because here's the truth. A relationship should never cost you your dignity. A woman who loves you should build you up in private and praise you in public. She should make you feel more like a man, not less. She should encourage your vision, not dismiss it. If you're doing everything you can to be better, lead with integrity and offer love, and she still treats you like a burden, you're not in a relationship, you're in an emotional prison. And the longer you stay, the harder it becomes to escape. Now let's flip the script. We've talked about what happens when you stay in a relationship built on disrespect. But what happens when you finally say, "Enough"? What happens when you stand up, walk out, and never look back? To many men, leaving feels like failure. Society tells us that real men don't quit. We're conditioned to endure, to fix, to tolerate. But here's the truth that nobody tells you. Sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's the highest form of strength. Because it means you've finally chosen yourself, your mental health, your boundaries, your self-worth. And once you do that, something powerful begins to happen. The moment you remove yourself from toxicity, it's like fog lifting. Suddenly you realize just how much energy you were wasting trying to keep someone else happy, someone who didn't value you. You begin to hear your own thoughts again. You sleep deeper, you breathe easier. You look in the mirror and start seeing the man you used to be. It's not instant, it's not magical, but day by day you return to yourself. Because now there's no one criticizing your every move, no one questioning your masculinity, no one shrinking your voice. It's just you and the quiet power of healing. Let's be real, respect is the backbone of masculinity. Not bravado, not ego, respect. When a woman no longer respects you, she no longer sees you as a man she can admire, submit to, or feel safe with. And when you tolerate that, you begin to neuter your own presence. But the moment you walk away, you send a message not just to her, but to yourself. I am not a man who begs for approval. I set the standard. That mindset changes everything. You walk differently. You speak with more confidence. You make decisions without fear of backlash. You're no longer negotiating your manhood. You're embodying it. Here's where it gets interesting and a bit twisted. In many cases, when you finally leave a disrespectful woman, she suddenly sees you differently. Why? Because by walking away, you demonstrate emotional independence, a trait deeply attractive to women, even if they won't admit it. She realizes that you have standards, that you won't tolerate mistreatment, and that makes her pause. Now, this doesn't mean she'll change. It doesn't mean she deserves a second chance, but it does mean this: she will never see you as weak again. Because you prove that even when your heart is involved, your self-respect comes first. And sometimes that's the closure you need, not her apology, not her comeback. Just the knowledge that she finally saw your worth. Ethan was a musician in his late 20s, creative kind, emotionally open. He dated a woman who constantly belittled his career. Music's not a real job. I need someone with a plan. You're just chasing dreams. For 2 years, he tried to prove himself, gig after gig, working side jobs, trying to earn her support. Until one night after a small performance, she said in front of his friends, "That was cute. When are you going to grow up?" That was it. He packed his things the next morning and left. No argument, no begging, just quiet, firm resolve. 6 months later, Ethan had signed with a label. His ex reached out. She said, "I was wrong, you're going places, I miss you." But by then, Ethan had learned something far more valuable than love. A woman who only sees your worth once you're gone is a woman who never deserved you to begin with. Leaving feels like loss at first, but it's really liberation. It's the start of a new season, one where you define your own value. You begin building a life where you're respected, not tolerated, where you're appreciated, not managed, where your masculinity is honored, not mocked. And here's the beautiful twist. The kind of woman who respects you will never need you to prove your worth. She'll see it from the start, because she's secure enough to admire your strength, not compete with it. So let me say this directly, man to man. If you're holding on to someone who belittles you, questions you, disrespects, you let go. If you've been molding yourself to fit her image while losing your own reflection, let go. If your love for her has cost you your confidence, your voice, your joy, let go. You are not here to convince anyone to love you properly. You are here to live fully, stand firmly, and love fiercely, but never at the cost of your self-respect. So you've walked away. You've healed. You've reclaimed your sense of self. But here's the question every man must face after leaving a disrespectful relationship. How do I make sure it never happens again? Because healing without wisdom is like rebuilding a house without reinforcing the foundation. This is where boundaries come in. Not walls, not arrogance, but clear, calm, immovable standards. And the secret to earning respect going forward isn't about being louder, it's about being clearer. Let's break down how to do that. Most men don't set boundaries because they've never defined them. They know what disrespect feels like, but they've never articulated what respect looks like. So start there. Ask yourself, what kind of tone crosses the line for me? What kind of language is unacceptable, joking or not? Do I expect to be consulted on major decisions? How do I want to be spoken about in public? This isn't about control, it's about clarity. Because once you know what respect means to you, you can communicate it early and calmly. And that prevents 90% of future pain. One of the biggest mistakes men make is waiting until they're angry to set boundaries. They let things slide, then slide some more, until one day they explode and now they look like the unstable one. Don't wait. Set the tone early. Calmly, directly, no drama, no ultimatums. For example, hey, I just want to be upfront. If we're ever in a group setting, I'd appreciate if we both speak respectfully about each other. That's important to me. I don't mind teasing, but if it crosses into belittling or sarcasm that cuts, I tend to shut down. And I don't want that energy between us. Say it once. Say it confidently. Say it without raising your voice. That's real masculine leadership, clear, composed communication that sets the frame of the relationship. A boundary without consequence is just a suggestion. And people don't respect suggestions, they respect standards. So what happens if your boundaries are tested? Don't argue, don't beg, don't negotiate. You calmly step back, you withdraw presence, you create distance. Your silence should say, I don't force people to treat me right. I just remove myself when they don't. That kind of self-respect sends a message stronger than any argument ever could. And if she truly values you, she'll adjust. If she doesn't, you'll know sooner rather than later, and that's a gift, not a loss. Here's where it gets tricky. Not all disrespect comes as insults or eye rolls. Sometimes it's wrapped in compliments or humor. Like, you're so cute when you're trying to be assertive. You're not like other guys, you actually listen. I'm the boss in this relationship, right? These might seem playful, but they reveal how she sees you. Don't brush it off. A confident woman who respects her man doesn't joke about emasculating him even casually. So when those comments show up, address them with subtle firmness. I know you're joking, but I'm not really into those kinds of power dynamics. I value partnership over hierarchy. If she laughs it off or mocks your sensitivity, believe her, you're not in the right relationship. This is the most powerful boundary of all, and it doesn't require words. Be the man who commands respect by how he carries himself. Walk with purpose. Speak with clarity. Decide with confidence. Stay grounded in your values even when it's hard. Respect isn't demanded, it's reflected. And the kind of woman who's right for you, she won't be intimidated by your presence, she'll be inspired by it. She'll lean into your leadership. She'll admire your stillness. She'll feel safe in your strength because it's quiet, firm, and unshakable. Derek, an architect from Chicago, used to be what he called a relationship pacifier. He'd say yes to everything to avoid conflict. He stayed in a toxic relationship for 4 years until his partner openly flirted with someone else at a wedding. That was his wake-up call. After that breakup, he spent a year rebuilding himself physically, emotionally, spiritually. When he started dating again, he made a vow: no more people-pleasing, no more silence. So when he met his now wife, he told her within the first month, I believe in calm, respectful communication. If we ever lose that, I'll always bring it up directly, and I expect the same in return. That moment set the tone for their entire relationship. Not because he was demanding, but because he was anchored. And his wife still tells him today, that moment was when I knew I could trust you to lead, not just love. So what can we learn from Derek and every man who's walked this path? Simple. Set your boundaries early. Enforce them with calm strength. And live them consistently, not just in relationships, but in every part of your life. Because when you know your worth, you'll never need to explain it twice. So let's bring it home. After everything we've covered, after the stories, the psychology, the heartbreak, the healing, it all boils down to one unshakable truth. If there is no respect, there is no relationship. Not a real one. You can have chemistry. You can have history. You can even have love. But without respect, none of it matters, because love without respect becomes manipulation. Desire without respect becomes control, and time without respect becomes a trap one you spend years trying to escape. A lot of men believe, if I just show her how good I am, she'll eventually respect me. Wrong. Respect isn't something you build over time, it's something you command through how you carry yourself from day one. A high-value woman senses it. She feels it in the way you speak, the way you hold space, the way you lead with calm certainty. And if she can't offer respect early, she won't offer it later. It only gets harder. So stop waiting for her to come around. You're not a project, you're a man. I want to speak directly to the man watching this who's still there, still hoping she'll change, still making excuses, still trying to be good enough. Listen to me. You are not crazy for feeling like something is off. You are not weak for wanting to be respected in your own relationship. And you are not selfish for finally choosing yourself. You don't need her to scream at you or cheat on you for it to be toxic. Sometimes all it takes is the slow decay of your confidence to know. This isn't love, this is emotional erosion. And you don't need a dramatic ending to justify your exit. You just need a decision. One quiet, powerful decision. I love myself enough to leave what doesn't honor me. Here's what most men never realize. When you tolerate disrespect, you're not just hurting yourself, you're training her. You're teaching her that you'll stay no matter what, that your love is unconditional even when hers is disrespectful. But when you leave, when you stand silently, firmly, and walk out the door, you become the lesson. You show her that respect is not optional, it's the price of admission into your life. And maybe, just maybe, she'll look back one day and finally understand what she lost. But by then it won't matter because you'll have found something better. Not just another woman, but a version of yourself that refuses to settle. From this moment on, let this be your code. If she raises her voice to feel powerful, you lower your presence and leave. If she mocks your ambition, you protect your purpose. If she plays games with your masculinity, you stop playing and step away. You don't argue. You don't beg. You don't try to explain yourself to someone who's already decided to disrespect you. You simply say, "This is not the standard I live by." And then you live by it unapologetically, because the man who leads with respect will only attract a woman who walks beside him with honor. If this video resonated with you, if you've been there or if you're there right now, know this. You're not weak, you're waking up. And millions of men around the world are waking up with you. We're no longer tolerating relationships that tear us down. We're building lives rooted in respect, purpose, and masculine strength. So hold the line, because the stronger your standard, the deeper your peace. Final words. If she says, "I don't respect you," believe her. Not because she's cruel, not because you're broken, but because it's your chance to finally choose yourself. Walk away with dignity. Walk away with clarity. Walk away with your crown still on your head. You are not here to chase approval. You are here to live in power. So stand up and never again sit down at a table where your presence is tolerated but your power is not respected.